There we go. So you can please rename yourself. So include your full name, your role, so either ONEIG member or executive, etc., and pronouns as you wish. So to rename yourself, you can click beside your name. There's 3 little dots. Go down to rename on the little pull down menu and rename. Another thing is, unless you're talking or sharing something, please keep yourself muted so that we don't have background noise. And if you haven't been able to rename yourself, just put that into the chat and Emma is going to help you with that. So we'll go to the next slide. So the agenda tonight, we're going to have a land acknowledgement and a welcome. There's going to be minute taker and recording is beginning. We're going to have a business section. We're going to try to make the business section as fast and as painless as possible. There'll be a quick break while we get ourselves organized, and then we're going to have guest speakers tonight with Katie North and Dr. Carrie Pickering. And finally, at the end of the night, we're going to have a raffle and acknowledgements. So to enter the raffle, take a screenshot in gallery view, sort of just to prove that you're here. And then on social media, you can hashtag ONEIG 2022 AGM and comment with what your preferred prize is. So you can either use Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So again, the hashtag is hashtag ONEIG 2022 AGM. And we'll figure out who gets the prizes based on social media tags. Continue to the next slide. Emma's going to take over from here.
Actually, before I do the land acknowledgement, we have not told you what the prizes were. So just very, very quickly, we have paper towels. These are a set of 8 single ply to replace using paper towels. We have a set of 2 reusable shopping bags, market bags. And we have anyway, it's a set of 3 beeswax wraps. There you go. If I put them in my face, you can see them. So those are our 3 prizes that we have. So whichever one piques your interest, please let us know when you tag us on social media. So for the land acknowledgement, I would like to acknowledge that the land that I am currently located on is part of the Carrying Place pathways that connects Lake Ontario with the Humber River and other waterway connections. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. As part of Toronto, Etobicoke is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I would encourage you to go online and find out which treaty covers the area that you live in. As we know, one's health and well-being is directly related to the health of our environment, and I thought that it would be particularly fitting to call our attention to the Truth and Reconciliation Call to Action number 19, which calls upon the federal government to establish measurable goals to identify and close the gaps in health outcomes between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal communities. It is through collaboration with Aboriginal leaders' expertise and ways of knowing that we can work towards closing those health gaps through the practice of environmental stewardship. Thank you.
So the recording, well, that already started, but we'll go from there. So we'll just go through the executive first of all. So the co-chairs are myself, Rob Samuelak, and Jocelyn Radcliffe. Sorry. The policy and political action exec are Dominique Bergeron, Bergeron. Sorry, Dominique, I butchered that. Olivia Brundia as well. Finance is Victoria Ralph. Student liaison is Emma Ayukowa. Emma, did I say that right? I didn't say that right.
That's okay.
There we go. Emma's also our host tonight. Arcane liaison is Hilda Swirsky, who's been with ONEIG right from the beginning, and she's an amazing climate champion, and we're so glad she's with us still. Membership is Samson Eggbom. Social media is Cleo Danforth, and communications is Jessica Burford. So, first of all, we have to approve the executive committee committee minutes from June 2022 and the approval of the AGM minutes from September 2021. So would somebody like to motion the approval of the EC minutes from June 2022?
I will motion for approval.
All right, so Dominique is going to motion, and who would like to move? Who would second it? Emma's gonna second that. Okay, carrying forward, approval of the AGM minutes from September 2021. Who would like to move to, who wants to move that motion? Anybody? Somebody put your hands up. Oh, Victoria is gonna move it. Okay, and who's gonna second it? Jocelyn's gonna second it. Great, and carrying on. Wait, treasurer's report. We're going to go to Victoria Ralph.
Okay, hi everyone. So it's really simple. It looks like a lot, but it's pretty simple. The spreadsheet in front of you is we had an estimated budget, so I kind of have a feel of where we want to do things for the year. So that ran us from our opening balance October 30th was $7,364.28. With the estimated balance, it would have brought us to $5,764.28. We didn't spend a lot, which is good. So there is a couple of things that still need to come out of the balance, but so we actually got a discount on our Zoom, which is great. We've spent more actually on speakers and honorariums, which I think is a great thing because they bring so much knowledge to us and expertise. And then we're trying to do more giveaways. So all in all, our balance right now is on the right-hand side of that is $6,938.24. Again, there is a couple of things that need to come out of our budget or our balance, which would bring us around $6,882. Next year for our upcoming plans is we are starting a bursary for the registered nurses for Ontario. I'm having a brain fart, sorry, I just came back from another meeting. So it's for a minimum of 3 years. So chances are we will probably carry this forward or create more. It's for $1,000 every year, and then we have to do dispensing fees, which is $100 per award. So for the 3 years, it would be $3,300. I've earmarked that on the far right-hand side of the spreadsheet there. But for next year, it's only $1,100. That is a go. So please keep watching that. You will see us posting things all about that. Please apply, especially being ONEIG members, get in there. We've got our Zoom, Facebook posting. So that's just more so social media, Twitter, any of that kind of stuff we want to boost. the amount of people that can see our posts, which is usually for events, workshops, speakers, stuff like that. Trying to think what else there is there. We're going to be doing the COP28 presence in 2023. We're very excited about that. And then constant giveaways throughout the year. We're going to try and really get you guys involved and get you environmentally interested, to say the least. Is there any questions about the budget? Okay.
Margarita raised her hand. Margarita?
I have a question about the Roberts Rules of Order in regards to motioning and whatnot. When did it ever be like, I'm just wanting to know for my own knowledge is when did it come that we could do motions in a chat?
We haven't done that today, Margarita.
Because in the chat, it says I motion and whatnot. So I'm just trying to understand it.
In this case, it didn't work out. We didn't actually notice in the chat that Dominique was trying to motion. I think she's just not able to speak. I think as long as we can confirm that's the intention of the member and that they are a member, then I think we would accept that. But that's good point to clarify, because yeah, we haven't done that before. I think it's just about confirming that that's their intent and that they're a member.
And then, like, I was just wondering if there was any like abstentions, any negations and whatnot, nays. All in favor. So I was just wondering if there's a new thing that changed with the Roberts Rules of Order, but thank you.
I guess we're moving along very quickly. Did we say all in favor, Rob? I can't remember.
We haven't for the previous motions. I think it was just a move and seconded. We didn't do all in favor. Do we need to go back and revisit that? Or is there anybody who would like to revisit those previous minutes? Is there anyone speak now?
We could just do right now, like
All
all
right,
in favor of
Jocelyn,
each.
there we go. Okay, is all in favor of approving the 2 minutes that we had previously addressed? All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody opposed? There's a couple people with thumbs up. I'm assuming those are in favor. I don't see anybody who seems opposed. So we will accept those minutes. Margarita, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, I was just like wondering because I mean, things do change all the time and I just want to be as updated as possible, but thank you.
Okay. Margarita also had a comment. We're going to address that following the treasurer's report. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the treasurer's report? Don't see anybody raising their hands. Okay, all in favor of passing the treasurer's report?
I think we still have to move it.
Oh,
I move to accept the treasurer's report.
sorry. Okay.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm new to this. I'm learning. Okay, so we're gonna move it. Everybody in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? I don't see anyone opposed. Okay, and that passes. Margarita did have a question regarding the giveaway prize. In the planning for the AGM, the executive committee decided that we would do it on social media as a way to boost our presence on social media and increase our presence there. so that we have more more presence and more weight behind our advocacy work. If there is anybody who is opposed for ideological reasons to posting on social media, shall we, are we comfortable? Is there anybody opposed to people who are ideologically against it, just submitting via email? Is there anybody who would be opposed to that? We're good with that. Okay, so if anybody wants,
Sorry, Rob, my only concern is in terms of drawing for a raffle right now, we'd need to like have everyone maybe who has an ideological opposition but still wants to enter into the raffle to email me directly. I can put my email in the chat, but I'm the one monitoring
Okay.
the social media channels for entry. So I'll throw my email in the chat. If you want to email me your entry, that is fine. It'll just have to be by the same point in the meeting.
okay, does that work for everybody, emailing Cleo directly? Okay, so that's an alternative so that we can accommodate everybody, okay?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Are we ready to move forward? I think we will. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, here is the ONEIG 2021-2022 members, voices, and membership. So currently we have a total of 1,591 ONEIG members. Registered nurses and nurse practitioners, we have 727, and then students, we have 864. Since last year, the total has increased. The students has slightly increased, and the RN NP has increased more substantially. Are there any questions regarding that?
Is this with or without the free membership? And what was it before it went to the free membership? And are we doing free membership this next year, or is it by paying?
So we've decided that we're going to move to a $20 membership for this year. The executive decided that. The numbers here are with the free membership. And Jocelyn, is there anything you would like to add or comment on with that?
No, it was just, yeah, after I think right now for these numbers, we're seeing that from the beginning of our free membership period to today, which would still be that free membership period, more people decided to join ONEIG, which is amazing. Some the people that joined ONE-IIOE joined ONEIG, or people joined later on in the year, which is awesome. And we will see the new numbers after probably in the December quarterly meeting, because then people will be in the new membership cycle, and we'll see how the $20 for RNs and NPs and the free for student, when we go back to that, which is what we had before, we'll see if that affects those numbers.
Any further questions about that? Would anybody like to move the membership presentation? Someone want to move that? Okay, Cleo's moving that. Anyone seconding that? Victoria's seconding that. And vote for approving that. Great. Anybody opposing that? The membership presentation that passes. Emma, would you like to do the video from the summer?
We're not hearing audio, or at least I'm not.
I think I have to be unmuted for that to work. Just let me re-click on that.
by nurses. ONEIG has had a lot of exciting events this year. Some examples include hosting skill shares on repairing clothing and gardening with kitchen scraps, and collaborating with Region 10 and Region 6 on a climate change and world view by nurses. ONEIG has had a lot of exciting events this year.
It's playing on a loop. Sorry about that.
Okay, are we moving forward then? Is that what we're doing, Emma? Okay. Okay, so we'll go to communications and social media, and we'll go to Cleo for this.
Okay, hi guys. So I just compiled the numbers here approximately for our social media presence and impact across our 3 platforms as of this last week. You can see the kind of followers, page likes, our equivalencies. Overall, our most engagement is on Facebook. The Twitter numbers look impressive, but are inflated due to the kind of effect of retweeting. And we don't get as much interaction there as we do on Facebook. Our use of paid posts or ads to boost our normal posts to be seen in stories and across platforms has been used pretty minimally. We've only had 3 in the last full year, with 2 of the 3 being in the last week. And Twitter, we have not utilized the effect of paid boosts. That's pretty much all.
Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding communications and social media? I don't see anybody. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so here is the interest group elections and appointments. So again, I was appointed to the co-chair role. Cleo took on the social media role. Samson Agbaum has taken on the membership role. There was a vote for the policy and political action roles, and Dominique and Olivia are our exec for that role. And then our student liaison is Emma. We've gone through that before, but I think does anybody have any questions for any of the new executive members? Don't see it. Okay, let's keep rolling forward. So there was one change that we would like to make as executive to the bylaws. There was no, previously in the bylaws, it was just a chair role, and we're changing it from chair to chair or co-chair. This is the original text here, and then we'll go to the next slide. And these are the proposed changes. So anything that's italicized, that is added. Nothing has been taken away. So we've just added co-chairs. We've added that the role is shared. So this role may be filled by one individual or shared between 2 chairs. It continues on. Co-chairs shall supervise the business and affairs of the ONEIG and represent ONEIG during his, her, their term in office. The chair or co-chairs shall be a member ex officio of all committees and perform all duties incidental to the office. The chair or co-chairs, shall be the ONEIG's representative to the RNAO head office. Leadership in building a strong EC or executive committee is required. The chair or co-chairs shall preside at all meetings of ONEIG and perform other duties as assigned by the EC. This following 2 sentences were put in case there ever comes to an instance where there's a disagreement. So should all attempts to reach a consensus fail, the chair or co-chairs will have 1 vote in decision making. Should co-chairs disagree regarding the vote, the most senior, or the second year of the term will have the deciding vote. So the most senior in the chair role, that is. So that was, the chair role was getting to be too large previously, and it got divided into a co-chair role to spread out the workload so that more work can be accomplished. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Jocelyn, do you have a question?
Just a clarification, I guess, that because we're alternating years in terms of election, that's why that there should always be a senior person. And hopefully that'll really help keep the momentum going with ONEIG, where one person will have already been in the position for a year when a new co-chair joins, and then it'll overlap that way. So there should always be somebody that's in that senior, like 1 year ahead.
Jocelyn, do you want to go through how the committee has changed over? There's been a lot of turnover lately, and kind of give the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, well, the challenge I think that has happened in the past is that a chair, or in the past was a president before last year, would end maybe for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they couldn't take on the role anymore and may not be involved anymore. And the new chair has to figure out how to do that role on their own. And so this is to help not only remedy that potential situation, but also just give us more capacity to do more in kind of the spokesperson role and the facilitation role, and to help ONEIG just do more and also just share all those responsibilities too, so that when the chair is not available, there's somebody else who can step in, and vice versa.
An example of that is evident tonight. I'm new to the role, whereas Jocelyn's been in it for a while, and my Robert's Rules of Order aren't quite as boom, boom, boom as Jocelyn. So that's where I'm learning, and it's kind of a mentorship going through. Would anybody like to move this motion to change the bylaw?
I can move the motion.
Okay, so Dominique's moving it. Anybody gonna second that?
I can second it.
Hilda's seconding that. Okay, now we'll put it to a vote. Everybody in favor, raise your hand or put a thumbs up. Okay. And then anybody opposing that, put a thumbs down or raise your hand now. Okay, and it passes. Carrying forward. Upwards and onwards. Okay, review of the ONEIG resolutions. So there was a resolution in 2022 that was proposed. It was about accountability for RNAO to see where our emissions were, and put various benchmarks for not benchmarks, but timelines on reporting. This was rejected. The rationale for it was which it considers to be a matter upon which the action has been taken by, is under study by, or is beyond the power of the association. So the previous year, 2021, there had been a similar motion, and there was a report given this year at the ONE-IIOE AGM, and that is brief on what it is. Jocelyn, would you like to add anything to that?
Oh, just that in the annual report for ONEIG, or sorry, the annual RNAO AGM annual report, they have a page in there where they report on this 2021 resolution, and what's shown here is just quick view of the first page of that, and there's more detail there. So I'll grab that link and put it in the chat so you can see the metrics that they chose, the beginning measurements that they're taking, and then they'll be reporting on it each year to the membership.
Are there any questions about the ONEIG resolutions to the RNAO? I don't see anybody putting their hands up. So let's, anything in the chat? Nope. Okay. So Jocelyn put that in the chat. And let's continue on. So exciting stuff. So this is what's upcoming for ONEIG events and work. We got RNAO to sign a couple weeks ago the Fossil Fuels Non-Proliferation Treaty, along with the WHO and a bunch of other healthcare organizations. So that's great. Waste Reduction Month is coming up in October. We're going to do some events related to that and some action items. November is going to be Radon Action Month. Coming up in December in Montreal, Canada is hosting the UN Biodiversity Conference. We're hoping to plan some kind of event around that. We don't quite know what it looks like yet, but something is going to be in the works for that. COP27, so the climate change summit that's held annually. This year it's November 6th to 18th. That's being held in Egypt. We're going to have a virtual viewing party, and the date for that is to be determined. Other exciting news. RNAO, with ONEIG's prompting, has submitted an application to send a delegation to United Arab Emirates to go to COP28 in November 2023. There has been some money promised from the head office for this. We'll have to do some fundraising as well, but we will be sending some nurses to COP28 to represent healthcare's point of view in the climate change conference. In January, we're going to have a skills share. We're going to focus on winter biking. It's possible. And then finally, there's the scholarship. So $1,000 for a nursing student involved in environmental issues. And the details of that will be announced, but Victoria already briefed us a little bit on that. Are there any questions about any of these events coming up? Lots of exciting stuff coming up. Lots of work to do and lots of places where we'll have a chance for action. Margarita.
I have a question in regards to the fundraising. If they're going to be going to the United Emirates, you're going to need at least minimum, I would say, 5,000 to 10,000. And how is, say, the RNAO and ONEIG going to be having that type of money? Because I know that at one point I was thinking about going to the United Emirates, and just between me and my husband, I think it came out to like almost more than 10,000. So I'm just wondering how everything's going to be playing out.
Well, Victoria's going to touch on some scholarship stuff in a moment. Regarding the COP28, we don't yet have a plan for the fundraising. We just submitted this at the end of August. We have to hear back from the UNFCCC to see if it's approved and to see how many quota spots we will be allotted. So we're just at the application phase. We're not yet at the fundraising phase. It will be expensive. It isn't a vacation. It is a working conference. There's going to be a lot involved, and we don't know the funding structure fully on it, but we have had, I do have an email from Doris with some money promised from the head office. Further details are yet to be decided. Questions about that? Margarita?
Nope.
Okay. Victoria, would you like to chat a little bit more about the scholarship?
Okay, so the scholarships, the application process begins in what I have here, early November. It opens in mid-November, and then the recipient gets notified, I believe, in April, and then you get your scholarship, of course. But there is also an annual gala for the recipients and for one of us or ONEIG member to go and celebrate it. So it is, if I can pull it up real quick. Nope, that's not it. We will provide a link to go and apply for it. I can read it real quick if you want. It's for student enrolled in a BSCN program at a recognized school of nursing, which we may change or add another one for new grads that demonstrate an active role in environment protection. They usually have to have one more year of study in their program. Yes, so it should open up, I believe, mid-November to apply for it.
Great. Are there any questions regarding the scholarship? Questions for Victoria? Anybody?
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, Victoria, you mentioned that there is an event associated with the winner. Have we budgeted any kind of travel stipend to send the winner or the representative?
I believe that's all from the organization.
Okay, thank you.
I'm waiting for a lot more details from them as well on like how the recipient gets picked and how we get involved in all of it. But those are the, I don't want to say definitive because I don't know exactly the dates, but that's kind of the gist of what the knowledge we have on this so far.
Any further questions? Okay, we're going to move forward. So the date of the next recap, the date of the next meeting for the executive committee is Monday, December 5th from 7:30 to 9. And any questions about that? I don't see any questions about that. Okie dokie, let's move forwards. Okay, now it is 8:11. Let's have a quick break. Stand up and stretch. Make sure to submit. Make sure to enter the raffle. And there. And we will reconvene in a few minutes. There are no raffle entries yet. So make sure that you enter the Emma, do you want to go through what the different prizes are again so people can remember the prizes?
Yes, no problem. So just remember, if you're going to enter, you do have to use that hashtag of ONEIG 2022 AGM because that is what we're using to track the entries. If you can just specify which item you'd like of the 3 that we have. The first item are these, they're called unpaper towels. It's a set of 8 to replace your paper towels in your kitchen, bathroom, wherever you use them. They are handmade in Canada, so a little bit more local, which is nice. Our second raffle item was this set of 2 reusable produce bags. They're made out of cotton. They're quite nice. I don't have this set, but I have a similar set that I use all the time. And our third raffle prize, well, you can't see very well. There we go. These are the beeswax wrap. So you use these to wrap your fruits and vegetables or other items in your fridge. They're reusable, and these are actually made by a local person in Toronto. So just let us know which one you would like, which one you would find most helpful for you in your life, as we want to make sure that we're sending out raffle prizes that are going to be used. And again, thank you, Margarita, for bringing up the point that not everybody is comfortable on social media. So if you would prefer to enter the raffle, without using social media, you can email Cleo. I believe that she has put her email address in the chat, but please let us know if you need her to resend that.
So we're just gonna end the break at 8:20, so we'll just give 5 more minutes. Here, somebody used the toilet. Okay, everybody, we're gonna all come back and we're gonna restart.
Sorry, I'm just trying to upload my screenshot and it's a little slow.
So the next part is the exciting part of the night. We're gonna have our two speakers. Emma, are we starting with Emma? Or are we starting with Katie or Carrie? What was decided again?
I think I was
Katie's gonna go
presenting first. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with
Yes, I am
Katie.
ready.
Welcome, Katie. Just give me one.
For
I'll do a
sure.
little intro while we wait. So Katie North is a registered nurse with a myriad of experience in frontline healthcare and education. She is currently completing her doctoral research focused on sustainability and waste in healthcare settings, and she is based out of Saint Boniface in Winnipeg. Katie est infirmière autorisée avec une myriade d'expériences dans les soins et l'éducation infirmière. Elle termine actuellement sa recherche doctorale axée sur la durabilité et les déchets dans les établissements de santé. Elle est située à Saint Boniface, à Winnipeg, Manitoba. And there we go. And I'll pass it off to Katie.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I know I don't have all that much time with you tonight to present my research, but I will try and keep it as brief as possible so that I can fit it all in the time frame. Rob just gave a good introduction about myself, but a little bit of a background about me. I've been an RN since 2010. I primarily worked in surgery, but have worked in various roles as both a frontline healthcare worker, a clinical resource nurse, and a program team manager at St. Boniface Hospital in Winnipeg. Most recently, I've taken on a position with the Université St. Boniface, teaching the RN-BN program at the only French university in Winnipeg. I have a master's degree in nursing with a focus on leadership, and I am working on a PhD with the U Saskatchewan right now. And today I'm going to talk to you about my thesis research for my master's program, which I will hopefully be expanding upon in my doctorate. Next slide. So my original thesis for my master's was focused on environmental sustainability in healthcare. And my thesis statement was that the use of sustainable products such as bioplastics compared to current products within hospital surgical departments can reduce environmental waste post-COVID-19 pandemic. I have a long-standing interest in advocacy for environmental sustainability in not only healthcare, but in all sectors. I've spent many hours over the years dedicating my time to volunteer initiatives to help clean up local communities and revise recycling policies and protocols. For me, this has really served as a foundation for my personal academic interest in how climate change relates to the health sector, and I'll get into the complexities of that relationship a little later in the presentation. It's been made apparent through environmental focused research that pollutants of all sorts have been contributing to worsening climate conditions for decades, and the planet is facing a dire climate emergency in the coming years. The COVID-19 pandemic further exacerbated our wasteful tendencies, and media coverage of this event has put a spotlight on healthcare generated waste, and it is currently overwhelming our landfills, oceans, and urban centers alike. I felt that this is something as simple as a procedural and product exchange within targeted areas of the health industry could potentially reduce healthcare generated waste and the industry's overall negative impact on the environment. By integrating biodegradable plastic alternatives into hospital surgical practices, we can demonstrate how environmental stewardship can be prioritized within the healthcare industry. I also felt there was a need to expand on this area of study, especially within nursing, as we have such a powerful voice within the health sector. Bringing more attention to this problem of healthcare generated waste is a positive step towards solving it, and this was also a motivator for me when choosing this topic. Next slide. I believe any research surrounding climate change is worthwhile and topical. Reputable scientific sources all agree that there's an ongoing climate emergency and the situation is quite serious. Understanding the severity of the crisis, the causes, and additional consequences may help us to create solutions. Next slide. When I began my research, it became evident that I was not alone in my concern for planetary welfare. This issue has been at the forefront of public attention in recent years. Initiatives to reduce and reverse damages have increased stakeholder involvement in activism and hopefully are seeking to reverse these damaging practices that currently exist. That includes more involvement from community members, political groups, non-for-profits, and corporations are all coming forward in recent years to make ecologically conscious changes to their practice. This has translated to a notable shift in focus occurring across various professional landscapes to incorporate aspects of environmental sustainability in business models, corporate values, and service administration. The health sector has begun to take note and responsibility for its own contribution to the climate crisis through its high rates of waste production and energy consumption. Next slide. There is now undeniable scientific evidence that we are amidst a global environmental emergency for which humans are responsible. The anthropogenic climate emergency is a multifaceted issue caused by various human activities on the planet, ranging from plastic waste pollution, utilization of fossil fuels and their associated pollution, and deforestation. Through decades of research, scientists have discovered the unintended consequences of our actions, including most notably the greenhouse gas effect, or GHGE, from carbon dioxide emissions in our atmosphere. Another substantial threat to planetary welfare is an accumulation of plastic waste. Plastic waste has accumulated on the planet to a previously unimagined degree. Plastic contaminates nearly all surfaces of the globe and impacts humans and wildlife alike. Plastic waste accumulation has reached extreme levels due to excessive manufacturing of non-decomposing plastic products, a lack of sufficient recycling methods, facilities, and resources, and irresponsible disposal methods. Humans' overconsumption of plastic has resulted in a gross waste accumulation in the oceans, with a plastic collection twice as large as Texas now found in the Pacific. Although plastics are vulnerable to degradation in ocean waters, they are not considered biodegradable as they do not break down into harmless particles. Small pieces, 5 millimeters and less, are categorized as a new term of microplastics, which can pose extreme health risks for marine life. Next slide. Greenhouse gas emissions are the main source of temperature rises due to the greenhouse-like effect that is produced within our ozone. It's been determined that our planet can safely tolerate a maximum global temperature increase of 2 degrees Celsius. And even then, we will likely see major shifts in global weather patterns and experience more severe weather regularly. It would be a safer option to limit our global increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius if that were possible. However, the worrying trend of a continuous rise in CO2 emissions is primarily related to many aspects of modern life in industrialized nations, and we are falling short of the objectives to stay below 1.5 degree increase. Next slide. Healthcare has an intricate relationship with climate change, due in part to the complexity of the industry. A further scientific examination of this relationship specific to region is needed in the literature to develop thorough mitigation strategies to combat the climate crisis. However, two distinct trends do appear commonly represented in the literature. Firstly, the existing correlation between pollution, climate change, and poorer health outcomes are well documented. Secondly, recent publications examine how the healthcare field is adding to the climate problem through its carbon emissions, plastic waste, and air and water contamination. Those with poor socioeconomic status and those living in poorer countries are more at risk for experiencing climate-triggered health problems. Access to fresh water and sufficient food, mass population displacement, mutating viruses and disease patterns, and conflict are all factors that will potentially compromise public health secondary to a climate crisis. Environmental pollution, which is projected to increase over the coming decades, is presently responsible for 16% of deaths worldwide and may account for an additional 250,000 lives lost per year by 2050. This poses a substantial risk to our healthcare system and could potentially overload many healthcare systems in many nations. Next slide. Climate change is relevant to surgical departments in particular, as they generate 1/3 of all hospital-produced waste, and current practices do not promote sustainability or ecological protection. Non-recyclable, non-biodegradable products are highly used in this area of practice due to the use of sterilized instruments needed in surgical areas, which account for much of the packaging and single-use plastic consumption, which generates a massive amount of plastic waste, which is destined for landfills. Not all plastic products are unfortunately recyclable, and recyclability may vary depending on location and regional resources, policies, and waste management capabilities. Recycling and other ecological waste management processes have higher associated costs than waste disposed directly into landfills, and some healthcare organizations are not inclined to spend the additional funds for environmental preservation. Personal protective equipment needed for the pandemic has also greatly increased the use of plastics and our waste. Strict hospital guidelines for equipment sterilization and packaging are another factor that contributes to the excessive use of plastic in surgical areas. And sterilized equipment must be kept free of contaminants and any possible exposure to elements through effective, impenetrable packaging. And plastic has long served as an inexpensive option to fulfill those requirements. Next slide. So bioplastics. The development of sustainable plastic alternatives is underway. Many researchers are examining the variations of biodegradable plastics or bioplastics as a realistic option to replace the harmful products currently in circulation. The term biodegradable applies to products with varying characteristics depending on location and existing legislation, but generally biodegradable signifies that environmental microorganisms will help the product to decompose naturally. Various bioplastic formulations exist and could replace traditional plastic, and there are sources of biodegradable plastics that do not come from carbon emission producing sources or oil-based sources. This would include plant cellulose and polylactic acid and polyethylene glycol. Additionally, new bioplastics are under development by repurposing waste, which even further advances ecological benefits for the planet. Pardon. Researchers have begun to examine the applicability of bioplastics in the medical field and to what extent these formulas can replace current products. Sorry about that. Bioplastics can replace current plastic packaging in surgical areas as they would offer similar impermeability and protection for sterile and single-use items. Additionally, engineered bioplastic that dissolves in industrial landfills may be the most suitable for the health sector, as it would require very little change to existing procedures or waste management resources. Bioplastics that can decompose in an industrial landfill may be disposed of with regular refuse and will not have an ecologically damning effects of petrochemicals, which are derived from petroleum and found in traditional plastics. Next slide. Throughout my research, I found that there was no single model or framework in the literature that perfectly fits the implementation process for transitioning healthcare facilities to environmentally protective products and policies. For the development of a more comprehensive framework encompassing various aspects of program change, implementation planning, community development, and economic considerations is needed to help guide the industry through environmentally protective changes. And that is what I'm hoping to do and accomplish with my doctorate studies. The development of an environmental task force, though, was a recurring theme in the literature, and it's recognized as a starting point for meaningful change towards ecologically beneficial practices. I chose Saber's model for environmental stewardship in healthcare as a foundation for my implementation plan. Saber's model describes how nurses can encourage environmental stewardship in healthcare through a 3-step process, including creating a task force, reducing biohazardous waste, and municipal solid waste reduction. Some critical aspects of this model are facility-wide education, promotional campaigns, and reassessment approaches for PPE. I sought to incorporate also community development theory and participative leadership approaches to affect bioplastic product changes within surgical areas. This recommendation uses the core concept of community development, focusing on unity and a collaborative approach to achieve meaningful change. Next slide. So here I have described the first step in my recommended 4-step process for how to implement changes over to environmentally friendly products. The first one is to establish the environmental task force group, as I discussed, which was a recurring aspect in the literature. This group would be responsible for being tasked with some key aspects, including using participatory data collection methods to accurately reflect the organization's perceptions, needs, and challenges, and those of the invested stakeholders. They would also assess stakeholder perception of recycling needs and that of the surgical department, and examine total waste production and plastic consumption per quarter. Next slide. Phase 2 would include a presentation of findings where the team would share detailed information campaigns to improve awareness and generate support for their initiative using the data collection from the participative data method collections to inform and identify all stakeholders. Next slide. Phase 3 would be, oops, sorry, phase 3 was on the other slide, but it was to initiate the product exchange and physically make the change and complete a longitudinal study to examine the impact of changing products and policies on the environment. Phase 4 is the correction or expansion phase, where the task group would meet quarterly to discuss failures and initiate implementations and revisions to their implementation plan. And next slide. So sorry, that part was rushed to get in my last minute there. But in conclusion, a shift in global culture is needed to prioritize the planet's welfare and mitigate the climate crisis on a more significant scale. Developing new carbon neutral technologies are essential. And moreover, humans will suffer under current practices. The global ecosystem and biodiversity will be severely compromised, and it's no longer viable for us to continue current practices that further contribute to climate change. All global industries are implicated in the climate emergency, and I think we have an ethical responsibility to adjust and reduce emissions and waste production. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
That was excellent.
Thank you.
We'll take one question now, and then we'll save the rest of the questions for afterwards. So who put their, Margarita put her hand up. Margarita, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, please. The one thing that I would have to say is one thing that we can do environmentally right now is to go to the elastrometric respirators, because you don't need to change them very often. It's like about, depending on use, but maybe once every 3 to 4 months-ish, and even some of them can be lasting for the cartridges up to a whole year, depending on the usage and how often you use it and the particulate in the air. So therefore, it would decrease the need to use the disposable N95s. And also, I have a question to the presenter in the fact that my daughter did a whole thing on biodegradable plastics last year for her assignment. So it was saying that there's a whole issue in regards to containing biohazardous materials, and especially in regards to the bioplastics, because they need specific light, like the sunlight, they need humidity, heat, all these different things that the materials need to be exposed. And so how do we expose the bioplastics that will be biodegradable in such a way that, yes, they will break down, but they will not contaminate the land and the people with the biohazardous material on it, such as, say, I don't know, E. coli, the hepatitis, and all those things to contain them.
Yeah, so that is kind of requiring a multifaceted approach. Right now, the literature does not approve for use of biodegradable plastics to contain things like IV fluid, blood products, and biohazard materials. Those would still have to be disposed of in a proper legislated fashion, depending on your region, or incinerated. But going forward, there are some options that I am hoping to expand upon if there was enough funding to do so. The creation and use of on-site composting systems that use micellar fungus to degrade all hospital-generated waste has been implemented in various cities across Europe. And essentially, these facilities are putting anything that comes out of their hospital into a contained, oxygen-deprived environment. And the fungus is decomposing the bioplastics, the biohazard material, everything that goes in there without any seepage into the soil or water supply. And it has been quite effective in also generating its own biogas, which can then be used to fuel the energy for the hospital. So this would be a large scale, like, capital planning project for either a new facility within Canada or either a renovation to an existing facility. But where they're at right now with bioplastics, it's not really a possibility. There are ways to improve the integrity so that you don't have to worry about the light exposure and the moisture exposure. And that would be by adding more of the polyethylene glycol into the formulations, because it maintains the integrity of bioplastics a little better. And that could potentially, in the future, when the technology gets a little more efficient with bioplastics, be used to contain biohazard materials. But as of right now, it's not something that would be applicable at this point. But the composting option is something that is happening in other places in the world, and I would very much like to incorporate that into a Canadian facility with my doctorate studies.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much, Katie. And thanks for your question, Margarita. So we'll have more questions for Katie coming up, but we're going to move on right now to Dr. Carrie Pickering. So Carrie is a past president of ONEIG and a research associate sorry, at the University of the Sunshine Coast, whose research has focused on health, food, and social ecological change. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks so much. It's lovely to see you all here, and yeah, just reconnect with ONEIG. Such a powerful organization and such a powerful profession, and I think sometimes in nursing we tend to forget that. But I think, you know, with Katie just having given her presentation, you know, really reinforces how powerful nurses are, the research coming out from nursing, and the impacts that we can have as nurses, because we straddle health and we straddle, you know, whether it's sustainability or environmental challenges. We have such a good perception of both sides, and we're such great communicators. So what I want to do is just talk to you about my experience in a bit of an advocacy way, and quite applied, because I've been fortunate to move in a few different areas around environmental research and advocacy. So I'll just take you through some of the stuff I've been doing. I know it's only 10 minutes, but I'll keep it short. Emma, if I can just ask you to let me have the screen, and I'm just going to show some pictures as I go through, just to keep you all entertained rather than looking at me, if that's okay. Great. Okay. Lovely.
I believe someone made you a co-host as well, so you should be able to share your screen at this point.
Right. Just going to share now. Just give me a second. I'm just going to jump into the it's just giving you the share. My apologies if I suddenly disappear from the screen. My internet and I've also, my computer died yesterday, so I'm working on someone else's, but I'll just try and get this so that we're up into slideshow mode. And I'll just take you through some of the stuff that I've been fortunate to be a part of, so that it just helps to round out, I think, a lot of what Katie's been talking about when we understand a lot of the things that are going on. Oh, don't tell me. Okay, can you hear me? You can? Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's the problem with this computer. It's quite old. I had to go and try and get it to revive. So I'll just see. Okay. Just loading. All right. Let me talk about as we go through, and I'll just see whether this loads or not. So I registered in, got my registration in 1984, and certainly environment wasn't topical for nurses at that stage, and we certainly weren't talking about environment. Everything was about infection control, and nobody thought about what was important for the environment. And I was always interested in that health environment connection. And so I started to get involved in just different groups outside of nursing, like Greenpeace and such like. And then I came to Canada, and I am from New Zealand, and I couldn't believe that we couldn't swim in the lake in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario after the rain. Like, that totally amazed me. And I was like, why? What's going on with the environment here? I'm just going to stop sharing because it's not going to work. What's going on with your environment here that these things are happening? So I went to university and started to do an undergrad BSc around environment, on environmental studies, to understand what was going on. And I learned a lot. It shocked me a lot to find out that those lakes were so polluted that you couldn't use them. You couldn't swim in them after it rained. And even down on the bottom, people were talking about, a black soot that was there from pollution. And then, of course, there was the fire in Love Canal. And these were totally foreign to me. So in my work as a nurse, I started to get really interested in what I could do. And so I joined Healthcare Without Harm, and I presented at one of their conferences, and I started a green team at our local hospital. And I thought, okay, well, a lot of this relates to what Katie was talking about. It's like, how do we make hospitals cleaner places? How do we stop the impact on the environment? And I thought, and I really love the way, Katie, you spoke about the SAVERS model, and it was, create a task force. So I was like, we're talking 12 years ago. Okay, I started a green team. And the day I started it, which sounds like a weird thing to say, I'd seen someone tipping an IV bag that had heparin in it down the sink. I was shocked, and I said to this girl, oh my God, what are you doing? And she goes, no, this is what we do. I'm like, no, we never do that. That's totally wrong. I rang the pharmacy and I said, look, this is going on. What are your protocols? And the pharmacy technician said to me, no, that's okay. And I'm thinking, no, this we have a big problem if pharmacy is telling me this is fine. So the crusade began, and within the year, I was able to work with facilities management, and we got in proper pharmaceutical disposal, the bins that should be on everyone's medication trolley and in everyone's medication area that you dispose of your medications in. So we're able to bring that in. We did a pilot in one hospital. I'm in Niagara. We were able to run that out to all of the other hospitals in our area. So we got 12 hospitals. So if you think about the amount of waste that we stopped, going down the sink, was incredible. And I think starting from that gave me a real insight as to the power we had as nurses, because people listened. Other nurses listened, but facilities managers listened, and different management within the hospital listened, and different managers and businesses outside of the hospital began to listen. So I thought, okay, this is good. We'll keep this going. But I was also working on other research projects. So being involved in nursing, it also brought me, of course, into climate change. And I ended up being a research assistant on a Niagara climate change project, and we were working and feeding into the Niagara Action Plan. And then from there, that led to work in water governance, and then that led to work in biosphere reserves. And then in 2013-14, I did my master's, and I looked at climate change in the wine industry, which kind of sounds a little bit odd, and it's a long way from nursing. And it is, because part of what we do when you're in research is you've got to follow the funding. And I was offered the funding to do this master's, and I was like, okay, I can do that. I learned the lessons. I learned what we needed in the realms of adaptive capacity, so that those things could be applied to other industries, not just the wine industry. That was just the case study. So there was a lot of learning going on, and it was really great. And at the end of my master's, I was kind of done with the wine industry. And I thought, okay, no, I really want to come back, and I want to come back to this health side, and I want to come back to environment. But I was beginning to understand the impact that the environment has physically. And again, as Katie has spoken about, is so important, that physical impact, but there's also a real emotional, psychological impact. And I started to get really interested in that. And so I applied and got a little bit of seed funding to look at connecting people in a nursing home to the environment. And the activity I chose to connect them with was bird watching. So I went out, and if I had been able to show you the pictures that I had, it's just the pictures of these bird feeders that I made, and dotted around this nursing home. And the impact was amazing on the residents in the home, and also the visitors and the staff. They became real focal points. We had the staff who were out cleaning the feeders and changing the bird seed, and just so supportive. It was a small little idea, and I thought, oh, maybe if we get them to, help out and watch at the bird feeders, maybe we can start to do some bird counting. Well, of course, we're dealing with, people in a nursing home, and, there were some issues around vision. We got some data from them, which meant that could go into, a global bird counting database, which was great. It was kind of a tick. But it was really the impact that having the birds close, the impact that had for people was really amazing, because they started to talk about the need to really look after the environment and look after the birds that we have and the wildlife we had. And it wasn't just the birds. People were loving watching the squirrels and the chipmunks and everything else that was coming to eat the seed. So it kind of just really blossomed out. It became this really gorgeous project that I really loved. And I thought, oh, wow, if I can do this as just this little seed grant, then, well, I can do a PhD, obviously, because, that just seemed like the next step, which, of course, is completely different. And I applied to do my PhD, and I began just looking at the connection between health, the environment, and actually I began looking at it with Indigenous communities. And originally I was going to look at that connection in the Arctic, but my PhD was at the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And while I was there, a colleague came up to me one day and she said, look, I've just come back from, 3 months research in Fiji. And I noticed that there's all these ladies walking around with this big swelling in their neck. And I'm like, oh my God, goiter. What? You're in an island community and you've got women walking around with goiter. So that flipped 1 year of my PhD on its head, because I couldn't, you know what it's like, your mind goes and goes and goes and you're like, I can't let it rest, I've got to find out what's going on. So that added a year to my PhD, and I switched and I flipped it all around and I began looking at what's going on in the food system. Fiji was my case study, but again, I still had this interest in Indigenous communities, because I knew from my nursing in Canada, a lot of health problems were coming through with the Indigenous population. So First Nations, mainly what I see here in Ontario, but when I was looking at going up into the Arctic, looking at health problems with the Inuit, a lot of this was stemming from food. And, food is essential for health, but it's also a real vector for the environment. So for contaminants and bringing that into bodies. And if it's also very reflective of people's, can they get the food? What foods are they choosing to eat? It's all really ingrained when we talk about, these real determinants of health. And I was like, all right, so back to the drawing board. And I ended up going into Fiji. I spent 3 months there, collected a whole lot of research, came out. I was awarded my PhD last year. And a lot of what I did was sitting in villages talking to people about what they were eating and why they were eating it. And it's really interesting, because you go to Fiji and they say to you, oh, we don't care what we eat, so long as there's enough for everyone. Like, that was their priority. There's got to be enough. So if it's just rice or whatever, so long as there's enough, it's like, okay. So it was really interesting to learn these different dynamics that were going on with the choices and the health impacts of that. So then I completed my PhD last year, and now, because I can't let the food security, environment, health connection go, I've been working on a COVID observatories project. And what we're looking at there is, how has COVID affected the health of Indigenous communities across 12 countries? But we're looking at it not just as COVID and health, but how it's impacting everything. So when we come at it from, the social and environmental determinants of health, looking at it through all these different dimensions. So it's kind of the work I did on my PhD, but it's magnified. And I was fortunate to be able to be back in Fiji in June, again, talking to people around, well, how did COVID impact your food? And really interesting, they were saying, no, COVID didn't impact our food because we grow our own. And so coming out of Fiji, the really interesting thing was, well, Fiji, a lot of people did really well. They didn't suffer with food loss because they all went back to the farm. They all went back to the sea, which their government had been pushing them to do for years. And then suddenly COVID comes along, and now you've got these people who are out there, they're exercising, and they're actually eating healthier because they're back to the farm and they're back to the sea. So it's a really quick wrap around me, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. But it's really applied. Like, don't think because, we kind of think nursing and environment that's out there. Nurses are so powerful in every dimension, and people stop and listen when you're a nurse. When I walk into a village and people say, oh, what do you do? And blah, blah, blah. And I go, I'm a nurse. People line up, and they line up with their questions. And it's the same when I walk into a meeting of researchers and they want to know, what's your background? Well, it's health. And I tell you what, the questions come and people listen because they know as nurses, we like data, we want to have the facts, but we know people and we want the story behind the facts. So always, really want to, really put that forward. And I'm going to shut up now. put that forward because I think often we forget the power we have. I know I forget the power that we have. And then I walk into a room that isn't full of nurses and everyone really stops and listens because they know we're often not there pushing our own agenda. We're not business people who are pushing for their agenda, their money. We're not politicians. We're there for help. And we often come with a really clean focus. And so people listen. So you know, if there's any opportunity in and around you, put your hand up, get involved in big and small ways. And I think doing that, it's really amazing the avenues that you can find yourself taken into. So anyway, I'll be quiet. I've overdone my time and my apologies on that. I'm really passionate about health, the environment, and yeah, I'm going to continue to do research in that area. So thanks everyone.
That was really interesting. Thank you very much, Carrie. Is there one question for Carrie? One question for Carrie, and then we'll open up for more discussion as well. One question for Carrie. Emma has a question.
Not so much a question, but Carrie, you weren't here for the land acknowledgement, but the work that you're doing is so relevant for that idea of, in order to improve health outcomes, we need to actually work with those communities and the people living there and the people that hold that traditional knowledge, because that's how we're going to bridge the gap. So I know you weren't here for the land acknowledgement, but it fits so perfectly what you're doing. So,
yeah, and thanks, Emma, because I'll really reiterate that when I did my research, and I think it's a lot of what we do with nursing, we don't come in and say to our patients, well, sometimes we do, you got to do this, you got to do that, da, da, da. We know what they need to do. And we sit down and we say to them, hey, what's going on? And it's the same. We take those skills when we do research and out into other, I would say other advocacy for environment. We don't come in and just blah, blah, blah. We sit and we ask, and that is how I conducted my research, was to go sit in the communities and not say da, 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 but tell me what's going on. What are your priorities? Because exactly as you say, and often communities have their own solutions. They don't need us coming in. What they need is our support and us to help in what ways we can to facilitate what they already know needs to be done. So thanks, Emma.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to the draw prizes. We'll see what the draw prizes are, and then we'll come back for a discussion. And that way all of the business stuff is done. And if people want to stay a few extra minutes and talk and have questions, we can do that. And then people can leave as well if they have somewhere to be. Okay, so we'll go to the draw prizes.
yeah, so I just want to say big thank you to Cleo, who is working hard behind the scenes, making sure that we had that all set up. She has our winners, and I'm just pulling up her message. So Martha, you are our first prize winner. I guess you had indicated that you would be interested in the unpaper towels. Congratulations to Martha. I'll make sure that we share the screen that has the ONEIG email. If you can just make sure to provide us with your contact information, including your mailing address, so that we can make sure that we can get your prize out to you. And then our second prize winner, I apologize if I pronounce your name wrong, Sanja?
Hello, it's Sanya.
Sanya. Okay, Sanya, I believe you were looking for the beeswax wraps, which
I was, thank you.
yeah. So again, we'll make sure that the slide goes up that has the contact information for us. Just provide us with your full name, mailing address, all that. We'll make sure it gets out to you. And our third prize winner was Jocelyn. So Jocelyn, you get these if this is something that you would use.
Those are the towels?
These
the
are
bags?
the reusable produce bags.
Absolutely. That's so wonderful. Thank you.
Great. So congratulations to all our raffle winners. Thank you all for participating. I hope that you had a really nice time, and I want to personally thank Katie and Carrie for agreeing to join us.
I would also, is my video on? Yes. I'd also like to thank Katie and Carrie and everybody who came out. And congratulations to all our prize winners. I'll let Jocelyn say a few closing remarks, and then we'll just have a discussion and people can filter out as they feel comfortable. Okay.
Thanks so much, Rob. I don't have a whole lot to say. I know we're running late, but I'm so inspired by the conversations we had today and the stories that we heard from both Carrie and Katie. Hey, and a little one too to join us along. Awesome. Hello, little one. So I really hope that you have a chance to come join us at our December meeting. If you're interested in getting involved, awesome. We've got lots of cool stuff to do. And even if you have ideas yourself that you need support with, that's what ONEIG is here for. And we can help connect you to the resources to get things done. So thank you all so much for joining us. And I hope you have a beautiful night and enjoy the fall weather and whatever that means for you. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving or if you celebrated the equinox, I hope you have a wonderful fall.
Okay, so who has the first question that would like to lead us off?
Margarita had one in the chat. She asked how to deal with the devastation that the Highway 413 is going to be, as Ford is doing a lot of red tape reduction, and how to ensure best practices.
Would anybody like to, I don't know, Katie, if you know about the 413 in Ontario. Carrie, are you knowledgeable on that front?
You know what, I'll have to just leave in a minute, sorry, but you know, I would say just get involved in any and everything that's going on around it. The David Suzuki Foundation, they're having meetings. There's a lot happening around that, and it's just a matter of going and being present, and it's doing what RNAO tell you to do. Contact your MP and your MPP. Keep going at this. There's a lot of power there if you use it, but you just have to keep talking about it, and then people start listening. And you say, I'm a nurse, this concerns me for these reasons, and they will listen. Because again, that also comes into food security.
You just posted a link to an event that's happening, a Harvest March, if you're in the area.
Does anybody else have any questions? We can just open it up for 5 minutes or so of discussion. We have Jack here as well, and Jack is the head of the Canadian Association for Nurses for the Environment, CANE. Jack, would you like to say a couple of little words?
Hi guys, sorry I was a bit late. I had a meeting. We're working on a social media campaign on the environmental injustice of beauty and toxic beauty products that target racialized and indigenous women. And that went a bit later, and we're trying to launch it near the end of October. So once you guys see that, please share far and wide. It's going to be amazing. I'm biased completely because I'm helping do it with Enrich and a few other organizations. But hi guys, it's nice to see you guys, and it's awesome to see how much work you guys are doing. In line with what Katie presented, we're actually going to be working on, in partnership with the CFNU, a toolkit for frontline nurses that to be able to like tangibly what to do on the floor, or if you're like a frontline nurse, how to like go about creating a green team, how to talk to your administrator, like just kind of like that toolkit. So if any of you guys from ONEIG would like to join the band, hop on the bandwagon, there's probably going to be funding for whoever does help to do, like it's either as a if you're going to be a consultant, or we're going to be hiring somebody to do quite a bit of the work. So if you know of anybody who is interested, that's their area of expertise, definitely send me an email, because it'd be great to have lots of people with experience working on this and to have something tangible that we can look to. Because I know even Rob, you're like, I want to start a green team. Like, I don't know what to do. So it's like, well, who do we know that has a green team? But to have like a network and resources, and to like lobby through the unions to be able to actually have a paid position when it comes to climate and sustainability for a nurse. That's one of the other aspects that we're working on with the CFNU, so that it's actually part of somebody's EFT. So that's a huge project that, hey, if we have the support of like all the nursing associations of student climate, that'd be great. So that was just one of the things, because we're just starting that process. So that's something anybody's interested in, definitely shoot me an email. And I'll just put my email in the chat for you guys.
Thanks
And
very
that's
much,
about it.
Jack. That's a great opportunity.
I am trying to type on an English keyboard and it's not working very well. There we go.
Does anybody have any questions for Jack or for Katie or anything else that they'd like to discuss with the ONEIG AGM before we leave?
Yes, I kind of forced Rob to zoom through those slides. So if there's anything we need to go back to, let me know.
All of it, because I missed most of it. No, I'm kidding. You guys don't have to go back
I
to
sent you the
everything.
slides though.
It's been recorded. In fact, it's still being recorded.
Great, wonderful. You have me with my big loud French laugh too. Awesome.
Oh, Hilda has a question or comment.
It's great to talk to Jack and Carrie. It has just been amazing to see her when she was president of ONEIG and how much she has matured and is now a member of both ONEIG and Kane. And I just wanted to say with Jackie here, we have started both executives talking of more of a partnership between us. And so that is on the horizon, because we can really see the benefit of both of us supporting each other. So we are just starting to talk about how it will work, how different proposals we can do. One memorandum of understanding is one suggestion Kane made, and Friends of ONE-IIOE is a suggestion that ONEIG made. So stay tuned, it is going to be exciting.
That's for sure. And like, if ever there's anything on the ground that Ontario is doing that you want the force of more nurses behind you, knowing that Kane is there if you need more representation, or even just like sometimes having like an extra, like Kane Manitoba, Kane BC, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it helps having a if there's issues that cross provincial borders and territorial borders, we might as well work together. Like, for example, the toolkit, like ONEIG making a toolkit, Manitoba making a toolkit, BC making a toolkit doesn't make sense. Let's like bring our forces together to create something, and because everybody needs it, and we like the open source, that type of thing as well. So yeah, I know Katie's part of the Manitoba Nurses for the Health and the Environment as well, which is a slightly different name than Kane. But our AGM is this Sunday, so if ever any of you guys want to come and say hello, you're more than welcome. I'll send the invite to Rob, and then that way you'll know what we're doing more at a national level. The biggest thing we did in this last week, I don't know if you saw the media blast about the complaint that was launched with the misleading campaign against fossil fuels. That was one of the biggest projects we've been working on in the last little bit with the media blasts. So that was long coming. So we're hoping that, you know, doing things from all different levels definitely helps. So that was one of the biggest things we've done in the last little bit.
Have a good night, Katie. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Sorry, I can't stay. I don't mean to interrupt you, Jack. I was just going to sneak out, but
No, that's totally okay. It's bedtime. We understand that.
yeah, she's going wild, opening all the drawers in her room. I can see from here. So I better go.
Oh, all good. We'll see you tomorrow, Katie.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So with ONEIG, it's kind of like the Ontario version of Kane. So rather than duplicating a Kane Ontario, it would be really nice to have a partnership where both go together and have some kind of membership that kind of overlaps somehow. We don't know how the structure will work on that yet, but that's kind of the idea where I think we should go, and I think, yeah.
Well,
So,
definitely, because we're so few nurses too, working right now in climate action. I don't know if you've noticed that it gets tiring sometimes being the ones like bearing the brunt, and we're in it for the long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Hilda knows this. She's been at the table since the inception of like the beginning of the climate and the environment with the CNA and with ONEIG. And kudos, Hilda. I'm not sure how you're still so positive, because some days I want to like bang my head against the wall. Right? Thanks, Jocelyn. That's a great idea.